So I want to follow up on something last week that because I thought about more about what Jay asked in terms of yeah, a little more detail, a little more instruction on how to bring the view of the emptiness of dependent arising, emptiness dependent arising, emptiness of inherent existence into one's meditation and integrating that. And I don't know, did anyone try to do that? Was, did it resonate a little bit with you?
Well, I kind of always do because I just assume, two wings, one bird, two wings, maybe
Yeah,
cheetah. So, yeah, I try to hold that in both things. It's
right,
easier for me to hold compassion in my heart than it is for me to sort of look out here and go, things are not as I think they are.
right. So, I have a little, as soon as people are ready, we'll do a short reflection here. So I'll wait to hear from the rest if they're ready and they finished their meals, their snacks. Sheil has got the thumbs up. I'm waiting for Denise's thumbs up. She's on the spot. Okay, thumbs up. Okay, so we'll just spend a few minutes because I thought of something that Lama Zopa Rinpoche once said in a talk on teaching on emptiness, and I thought it's something that I do use sometimes and find it very powerful. So uh, just for a moment, if you can just gather your uh, collect your mind and just try to settle for a moment. And before we start that, well, you can start that. Becoming just into the present moment, leaving all the stuff behind from previous during the day or wherever you are, and then just settle on the breath for a couple minutes or a minute. I'll let you do that, and then I'll come back, letting the breath flow just in a very natural state. And then just think that for the duration of this class and for the rest of your life and the future lives, everything we do is generated with the wish to attain awakening, full awakening, for the benefit of others and myself as well. So, in order to spark to generate a greater depth in the meditations that we do on the path, Lam Rim, or in terms of any meditation that you might be engaging in, like I said last week, if we're able to do it with some sort of feeling of the emptiness of inherent existence, then that meditation completely transforms, it changes. Doesn't matter if it's a meditation on the precious human rebirth, the death and dying, bodhicitta, compassion, exchanging self with others. No, it doesn't matter which meditation you might be engaging in. All those meditations are designed to deepen your insight into emptiness. It's just a natural effect. If you do them without the view of emptiness, of course, that also has great positive value. So, in order to jumpstart the mind and the view of emptiness, I'd like you to just reflect on a week ago today, this time. Just sort of see yourself engaged together in this class. Just get a sense of yourself, how you were. Maybe an image comes up of yourself or a memory. And get a sense that having gone through the work week, Monday through Friday, just spend a moment actually seeing yourself going through that. It was you, right? You felt like this is me. Look back at that like a reviewing a video of yourself. See yourself going to this place and that place, eating this, that, going to bed at night, getting up in the morning. It's all the same stream of consciousness. And bring the images up to some hours ago before this class. Really see yourself experiencing whatever it was you were doing, whether you're having a snack or something. Just see yourself having how you were then. And now see yourself getting ready for the class a few minutes before. That was you too. All in past tense. And see, now bring it to a few minutes ago when we started this reflection. See yourself there in past tense. Now see yourself just a minute ago, listening to the instructions, feeling whatever you were doing, the image of yourself, the memory of yourself. And now see yourself right now in that past tense, because by the time I finish the sentence, it's gone. So stay let the mind move. You're watching how you're changing instant to instant. See yourself in this moment in the past tense, because it is. The ignorance is self-grasping, constantly sees, I am this, and you see yourself as fixed and permanent. And now you can see that's a total myth. The moment you see yourself, you're gone. There is no fixed self, even though that's how we see it, see it from beginningless time. But there isn't one. There's not there. It's a trick. And now, for just a second or a moment, take a look at your body and your mind as kind of a whole, and realize that this is a human life you have. Just engage, keep in the background that view of the emptiness of a solid self. And now that's in the background. And now just look at your precious life. It should be feeling like a sort of a radiating feeling about the humanness of your existence, of our existence. Okay. Okay, that's just a little introduction of something you can, maybe it's useful to integrate in your practice. And of course, we could do the whole hour and a half, of course, like that. And taking any topic that you're familiar with. I use precious human rebirth because we all are humans, and our humanity, our humanness is not far from us, but we never, I shouldn't say rarely are we in touch with that. When we come in touch with our humanness, then you feel it's unbelievable potential. You should feel very inspired. Like it's like sort of mind blowing. Okay. Does that make sense to everybody? Confusing? Any questions?
I've got a question or
Mm-hmm.
more of a comment. I found that really helpful.
Oh,
I'll
good.
say that. So and I'm glad it's recorded because I can do it again another
Yeah.
time. Because I haven't really been exposed to something quite like that before.
Yeah.
So that's really helpful.
Good.
The other thing is, I'll comment that my consistent reaction to emptiness, and I know this is all part of the process. I've kind of know and read about it.
Sure.
Fear comes up.
Yeah.
Uh, it's just, it's like I hear the Twilight Zone music in the background, and
Uh-huh.
I it
Mm.
creeped out a bit by it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's how it is.
Yeah. That's common, as you said.
Yeah.
As you said, it's common. And then the remedy to that eventually, of course, is you start looking at who is afraid. Okay. And something that maybe is a good imprint is to remember that the fear, I can't say it generally, generally the thing about the fear is that it feels like we're going to become annihilated, right? We're going to cease to exist. And that's
Yeah.
understandable, but remember, that's the ego grasping. The ego grasping mind, the self grasping mind will cease to exist, by the way. It will. So it's afraid, rightly so. But just continue because as you continue your meditation, as you know, when you look for that self that's afraid, it doesn't even exist. It doesn't exist already. So we don't have to worry about losing it. So the annihilation is, in in the philosophy of Buddhist thought, then we have the middle way, and the middle way is referred to as the middle way between the two extremes, right? Between the extreme of annihilation or nihilism and the extreme of eternalism or permanence, okay? Um, or solid existence. Permanence is not actually the technical word for it. It would be inherent existence, but excuse me. But sometimes you don't understand we're either fixed and solid, or we're going to get or we don't exist at all. And of course, the middle way is those are two extreme views that are not rooted in reality. Um, uh, so one thing, Jay, and everybody, to kind of remind yourself of, it's very refreshing. The mind is never going to cease to exist. So you don't have to be afraid. If you become more and more comfortable with that, and okay, through your study, of course, that's why study is important. This concept of self that I'm so, what's the word, so attached to for countless eons, right? That will cease to exist. So no wonder it would put up a fight. And fear is one of its best tools. And just time, very, very, it is not helpful. In fact, it's harmful to push. Some people push into this view of reality, into the view of emptiness, and actually there can be like a break. It's not healthy. It's a natural thing. Now, it can happen the moment we attain insight, direct insight into emptiness. It can be a little bit of a leap, right? Or it could be gradual. So I'm not saying that there might not be a leap, um, but that the wisdom takes over from the self-cherishing, the self-grasping mind. And we have wisdom is a functioning thing, but it's not functioning in us. So as we meditate in this way, the wisdom consciousness will begin to get activated. And then you become less and less nervous about it. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Did that speak to what you're saying?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Okay. Anything else? Yeah, Sheila?
Two things I just wanted you to clarify.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why those balloons are there. I have no idea. Two things. So as we did the emptiness meditation, is what we're supposed to see like how our self is transitioning from various activities, like it's like we and the mind, like my body, my mind is not staying static, like I'm going from one activity to the next, one day in, one day out. Is that what I'm supposed to be seeing, how I'm just so transient and I'm not static? That's the first one. I wanted to just confirm that. Is that what I'm trying to be seeing in empty?
So can I answer that first?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So we have to be, a little technical here, is that is a correct view that you're talking about. It's the view of impermanence. The view of impermanence is not the same as the view of emptiness. But through the view or the familiarity with emptiness, all you have to do is do a little bit of analysis. And if you analyze, we talked last week, it's very important to identify the object that we're trying to refute, as they say. And that's this solid sense of I, solid sense of self. That has to be very clear. You can have to actually, typically, they sometimes say you spend months and months and months identifying the object of refutation. So you don't have to go too fast. Just spend time go, oh, that's that solid. That's what they're talking about. A solid, and that's, yes, I do see a self that appears as self-existent, solid, independent, permanent, all those things. Okay. The view of impermanence, when we're meditating on the view of impermanence, that solid sense of self still exists. It's more subtle. Okay. Which is good. So what happens next, if you take the view of impermanence that you're talking about, and now you apply it to trying to find, with your logic, you have to use logic. That's what people don't understand. You can't, at our stage, you don't just want to rely on faith. Eventually, eventually the logic gets put aside. When someone has direct insight into emptiness, there's no logic at that point. Okay. Because logic is a conceptual mind. And but nonetheless, you never stop losing that. You never stop using the analytical mind, because it's very subtle. That now is not like, some physicists or something or science. It is operating even after one views emptiness non-conceptually. You can still use the analysis to deepen and deepen and deepen your view of emptiness. So it's not something that goes away. And it's what it's when they speak about shamatha or calm abiding and penetrative insight, and you use the two together. That penetrative insight is this analytical or this logic that we're talking about, discriminating wisdom. And so many schools that we're involved in, don't teach that. And that's why they're a little bit, when you get into the deeper meditation on emptiness, I think they could be very misleading. Okay. Even in higher level, like we talk about in Dzogchen and Mahamudra and these things. I mean, in this tradition that we're in, we put a high value on, because Lama Zohar Rinpoche used to say, ask people, what's the difference between meditating on Dzogchen and spacing out? That's the danger. And in fact, in meditation, when we proceed through the meditative levels, right? When we meditate and we go through different absorptions, one of the four formless absorptions is infinite space. And that person can believe they're meditating on emptiness, but they're just meditating on space. And I say just, it'd be fantastic. A very high level of concentration, but it's in samsara. So as soon as that ends, the mind takes rebirth into wherever. It doesn't and this is in the Hindu tradition as well. It can happen to the Buddhist meditator as well, who's not well schooled or not, well guided. Is in the Hindu tradition, they have these high levels of meditation. They do, but they're all within the subject-object duality. So they're meditating on space, so infinite space, so subtle, but there's still a subject and an object. And that subject, very, very subtle, is still this self-grasping identity. Okay. So when you feel that sense of the movement of your identity, moment to moment or day to day, yes, and then what you do, then you see it very clear, because you will have the experience of impermanence as you meditate. You actually, the visual or experiential experiential insight into impermanence, very, very powerful. But for the Buddhist or the yogi or the meditator, what he or she needs to do then is, within that view, is start looking for a concrete I. Because it's still there. It's become very subtle. It's kind of like hiding. That's why you need the logic. That's why you need to peek behind the curtain. And when we do that, then in the view of that impermanence, it becomes totally untenable that there could be a self-existent I. How do you have something concrete on top of something that's moving? Okay. That's where the meditation would go as you meditate on impermanence. You're trying to find the self-existent permanent. So what your experience is impermanent, and yet there's a permanent I saying, yeah, here I am. I really exist. And you just use your logic, you use your meditation, you use analysis. That can't exist there. How can it exist? It too is changing, isn't it? Isn't the I changing also, moment to moment? Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so I mean, enough on that. Sorry, I kind of get
No,
excited. Yeah. Was there a
yeah,
second part?
yeah. And then just to tag on to Jai's question, you mentioned that like as you talked about this fear, and then you talked about like, I'm gonna say in my word, I forget what you said, but like the consciousness, the mind does not ever disappear.
No, it's eternal.
So is that like saying we are over 8,000 people on the planet? So is it like sorry, we're over 8 billion people on the planet. So is that saying that over 8 billion individual minds don't ever disappear. Like for myself, when I die, uh, whatever I'm carrying in my mind goes somewhere else and rebirth.
So, there are, I think no, there's one with 16 zeros following it, whatever that number is, mosquitoes in the world. So forget about 8 billion. It's nothing.
Right.
All of those mosquitoes also have the same thing. They have, and then we want to talk about ants. I guess there's about same. I don't know about plankton. I think they're also sentient. The point is, each of these beings have a mind, that's inhabiting their form, and their minds, our minds, your mind, every mind, no mind ever disappears. You can't annihilate a mind. Isn't that interesting?
So all minds of the trillions that they are just
They're-
kind of intertwined like this all the time. Like I will be an ant and then I don't know, I go into a
yeah,
butterfly. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's the same consciousness though, just different personality.
Thank
Okay?
you.
Yeah, same consciousness, different personality. You're not we've had countless lifetimes, so um, we've been everything countless times. Susan, did you want to? You had your hand?
Yeah, it's very related to part two of Shield's question. So you said the mind never disappears, but
Mhm.
our mind, the mind we know,
Yeah.
anyway, the one that has all our memories and etc., it will disappear. And so what is it? What is the substance or the thing that carries forth all the karma and stuff? What is that? How I cannot grasp it. I
Okay.
cannot.
Well, don't worry. It's the seminal debate amongst the four philosophical schools and amongst every school of philosophy, basically, right? So don't worry. So Well, the simple answer, I'll give you the simple answer first, which has to do with a lower school philosophical Buddhist. Lower, well, gosh, we're really going. These are very hard for me to be simple about. I apologize, because I don't give one word answers for this kind of thing. The whole debate, the whole question is what does transmigrate? Okay. The first acceptance has to be that there's transmigration. Okay. All Buddhists, all Buddhists accept transmigration, rebirth. So, according to your school of Buddhism, which I'm talking about, it's hierarchical, okay? Depending, you know, they define that thing that transmigrates differently, okay? They're working with the same instructions that Buddha gave, this description that Buddha gave. He says this, it's that, da, da, da. But they each have their interpretation of that. Okay, that's very important because they're not promoting something that Buddha didn't say. They're just interpreting it a particular way. Now, if you're in the Christian or the Hindu schools, Buddhists reject what they say transmigrates. They'll say a soul or Atman transmigrates, which, if you ask them what that is, it's a permanent identity. It's a permanent thing. Like a soul, if you talk to any Christian, scholar or whatever, they'll describe the soul, and then when you listen closely to what they describe, they're describing something that is inherently existent, and that's untenable for any Buddhist philosopher. Okay, there's no inherent existence anywhere. But this class is not designed to go into those subtleties right now. So, according to most of the philosophical schools in Buddhism, let's make it simple. They'll say the consciousness transmigrates. The consciousness. So, consciousness is another word for the mind. Okay. What does not the mind consciousness, and for this, we study the mental factors, for example. It describes what consciousness is and mental factors, all those things. And so when we talk about consciousness, I'm just trying to keep it simple. This consciousness is something also, it's not inherently existent. We just discovered that it's moving. Okay? It's impermanent. And when we die, uh, our psychophysical aggregates all begin to absorb or cease to work. Okay, so our body is one of them, one of these aggregates. It ceases to work, right? We know that watching. Another aggregate is a feeling aggregate. So our feeling aggregate, feeling doesn't mean emotion. It means, the sensation, feeling thing. That will cease to work. That absorbs, they say, but it's more like it kind of disintegrates. Okay, so that stops working. And then we have the quality of one of our mental qualities is discrimination. I can see that Denise is different from Sheil. I can see a black mugs versus a white, right? That's discriminating, discernment. That absorbs. So that's why when people are dying, they don't recognize their relatives anymore. Okay. That factor, that mental factor of discernment is absorbing or dissipating, dissolving. Okay. And then what happens is we have another aggregate, so there's only five, another aggregate that has all the emotions, all the rest of the stuff besides that feeling one and that discernment. And that includes memories, that includes emotions, that includes fear, anger, desire, jealousy, all those mental factors, of which there's like 51. There's many different schematics, but in one schematic, it's 51. Those also now begin to stop functioning. They say absorb, but they really kind of, where do they absorb? These all are absorbing into the consciousness. And the consciousness is the primal mind. And that consciousness is just the experiencer. It's clear, right? We talked about, I think, last week. It's clear, it's formless. It also has certain subtlety. It gets more and more subtle. In this consciousness, or the most subtle aspect of the consciousness itself then dissolves. And it dissolves into what they call indestructible drop at your heart, chest, which is sort of I'm looking for the word, uh, the sort of the capsule of your mother's egg and the father's sperm. But it's very subtle, right? Doesn't look like what it will look like when you were when you were conceived. Very subtle energy, the mother's subtle energy of her ovum and the father's subtle energy of the sperm. This is very, 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 very subtle, and it's very, very, very subtle form, almost formless. Okay, that then leaves the body. That's called death. That's the definition of death. Once it leaves the body, it's in a subtle form, very, very, very subtle, and has a very subtle body, which is almost like prana, right? It's just a little bit of energy. And that's called the con. That's what transmigrates. It's holding all your karmic seeds, imprints. Okay. So that's why when we take rebirth, we might go take a rebirth in somewhere good, somewhere bad, born in a rich family, a poor family. We have two ears and one nose, or two noses and one ear, and we just, that's all based upon our karmic imprints. And now imprint here means just, and I'll talk about karma a little bit because Denise asked me if I would, but you see, every instant right now, you and I, we're hearing things, right? So we're using this form aggregate, right? And that then the sound is interpreted, right? It has to be something. It's not just sound without a mind. Sound without a mind, we wouldn't hear, correct? Sound without an ear, we wouldn't hear either. So we're dependent on the sound, the organ, But just sound and organ, do you hear my voice if you just have sound in your ear? Do you hear my voice if you just have an ear and my voice? You know, I'm talking. Will you hear my voice or not?
No,
Why not? What's missing?
the computer.
Yeah, the awareness, right? That awareness is the mind. That awareness is consciousness. Okay? Okay. It's the motherboard. Okay. Take any of those three away and there's no sound. When we experience sound, we don't experience it that way, though. The sound is also another thing, not independent, but appears to be, right? You meditate on how it appears something independent, and yet, no, there's things going on in your ear, and there's things going on in your brain, and there's things going on in your mind. You know, the sound is the sound in your ear. Is it out here? You know, we're across millions of miles. Is the sound over here with me? Where's the sound?
I don't know.
Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? We don't know. That's why Buddhist theory and psychology is so amazing and why we're so messed up. Because we think the sound is in Karuna's voice. And we don't even know where it is. Can you hear my voice without your mind?
Is it in the airwaves?
Okay, it's in the airwaves. Okay. It's in the airwaves. The sound is in the airwaves. If it's just in the airwaves, do you hear it or not?
Not
You do?
necessarily.
Huh?
Not necessarily.
What makes you hear it?
I have to be within distance or connected to a computer or something like that.
Mm-hmm. So the sound is in the computer.
I don't know.
So if it's in the computer, we should be able to open up the computer, find the sound, right?
Well,
Everything is like
it's
this.
like gravity. You can't see it, but it's there.
Gravity, you can't see it, but it's there. Gravity, yeah, that's a physical property. But hang on. Gravity, you can't see it, but it's there. How do you know it's there?
Because if it's not there, I will, according to scientific law, go flying off into outer space.
So do you see the effects of gravity or not?
Well, I see things attached to the earth. They don't go flying off into space. So
Right.
I can see
So
gravity, but
so who is it that sees the gravity? The gravity itself? Can the gravity itself, can it just be there and have no one experiencing it? No, you're experiencing it, right? And then you say gravity. If you're not there, there's no gravity. Let's take the
but there
sound. Let's take the
there
sound.
seems to be gravity, even if I'm not there.
Are you sure?
I'm not out in the street, but the cars are sitting there.
Yeah. So are they? If no
Yeah.
one's experienced, how do you know? If there's no experiencer.
Because there is experience.
So they exist outside of you.
Yeah.
There is experience. What is experience? Let me put it in a sort of a funny way. Is there experience without an experiencer?
No, probably not, I
Not.
guess.
There's not. I know these are deep things. So this is a thing to reflect on. If from Buddhist psychology and philosophy is way out there, but it's completely logical. There
But you
is
know what, Karuna, it seems really egocentric to think that I need to be the one experiencing it or there's no gravity, rather than all those ants and
oh,
bugs and people
there can be
and everything.
yeah, no. There can be other people experiencing the gravity. I agree with you. But what I just said is other people experiencing the gravity. There has to be an experiencer.
Yeah. Okay, I see.
And the way that our mind works is we don't think we think though, yeah, without experiencer, things exist. And so in the highest school of Buddhism, you're not going to like this, Susan. You're not going to like this. My wife doesn't like it either, so don't worry. Nothing exists. If there's no experiencer, the thing doesn't exist. That's the highest school of Buddhism. Because everything is dependent, not independent. So to think about the way our default mode is ignorance, and we think my car is sitting in the driveway. But my car is not sitting in the driveway till there's an experience sitting in it. It can't experience itself. Can it? It doesn't have a mind. It's not very nice, is it? Remember, we're talking about things are dependent, right? Not independent. If things were independent, they'd be self-existent. That means they would never change. Something that is inherently existent or self-existent never can't change. And let me give you a clear, easy way to understand this. I know it's very hard. This stuff is very deep. This is the deepest topic, by the way. But we talk about the nature of reality. But what's the definition of reality? Right? You know, well, that's very easy. The definition of reality is quite easy. It's quite profound and very easy. Definition of reality is that something exists the way it appears. Okay. My car out there appears to be out there on its own. Okay. But the reality is my car is dependent on an experiencer. It's right, because I think my car appears out there as independent, existing on its own, right? That's how we think everything is. If that were true, it could not be impermanent. It's actually changing moment to moment, instant to instant. It's like Shio was talking about the mind. Impermanence. The atoms are in constant state of flux, right? It's disintegrating, it's rotting between, right? I mean, decaying in front of us. We just don't see it. So if I saw reality, that's reality, right? Does anyone argue with me that my car is decaying right now? Does anyone argue with that? But none of us see it. That is a simple way of understanding not seeing reality. One of my teachers, Geshe Gelek in North Carolina, has a nice little saying. He says, we see things that aren't there, and we don't see the things that are there. So what is there in my car and in front of me right now with all of you is impermanence, changing moment. I don't see what is there, impermanence, and I do see what's not there, permanence. And unless you've realized emptiness, you're seeing the same thing as me. Okay? And this is not just mental gymnastics. This has to do with being happy or not happy. Because because I see my car as permanent, and when the front bumper gets stuck on one of those parking concrete things and it pulls it off, what happens, right? We get whatever, I don't know, you might be really chill about it, but it's like, kind of, oh shit, look what I just did, that's $1,400, right? Isn't that true? But Lama Zopa never has that reaction. That's because I don't see what's really there. In its nature, of course that's going to happen. And it's not just impermanence I don't see karma. So karma just means cause and effect. But when that car is sitting there, I don't see cause and effect, right? That car is set up to disintegrate. That car is set up to be damaged, right? That's its nature. That's the nature of impermanence. That's the nature of cause and effect. But we get so surprised when someone dents our car. Or we get so surprised this body is actually in the nature of, its nature is problems. And we get so surprised when we get the flu. We get so surprised when we get cancer. We get so surprised. Why? Because we have a misperception of reality. The reality of the body is it's a heap of, sorry, sound very fundamentalist. It's a heap of diseases, and it's like, I mean, really, when you dissect the body, it's kind of hard to feel. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm talking not from my experience, but from teachings. Okay. It's hard, like, to fall in love with someone and be attracted to somebody. Because if you really were to deconstruct what another person is in their body, there's not much there that's very attractive, right? I mean, right? It's just a matter of our projection onto their body. That's all it is. If it wasn't, okay, I see Susan's really kind of like, so listen, if that, then in my case, if that woman was attractive, right? Inherently, that's the way she truly exists. Because reality means something exists the way it appears. So if she's really pretty, right? You can do this with anything. He's really nice. The car is really awesome. The coffee tastes bad. It doesn't matter what it is. We do it with everything. So, when the person cuts in front of you in the line in the grocery store, we do the same thing. So if that woman was really attractive, inherently, she matched reality, like I think she does, everyone would see her as pretty. And she'd only stay pretty. She wouldn't decay or age or get wrinkles and that kind of stuff. Okay. I hope what I'm saying is I gotta be so careful about being sexist these days, right? So I hope that's okay. I didn't offend anybody. But we're all, I mean, by the way, it's so stupid because just about every human being is attracted by another person or not. I mean, people find people attractive. That's part of being human. And they find other people to be ugly. And none of those are true. None of them are true. There's no ugliness and there's no beauty of how we're, of what we see. There is, of course, great beauty in the world, but not how we see it. Oh gosh, I haven't even started my slides. You guys know how to distract me. I think you're distracting me on purpose, is what I think. Sheil, and then should I share a few things that
Okay.
at Denise's request? Yes.
You just, I was understanding everything that you were saying. I just want to clarify because you said that in order for something to exist, the experiencer, say for example myself, needs to experience it. So, like for example, my dad, does my dad not exist because I'm not,
Perceiving him?
yeah, like he's not here in my view. We're not having a conversation. He's at home, so he doesn't exist.
Right. He's experiencing himself. So of course he exists. And
But
your mother, oh, for you, because he's not existing in that moment for you. No, he doesn't. But that doesn't mean he doesn't exist.
okay, right.
And this is a good question because I'll tell you, very, very interesting meditation, not just meditation, but very interesting technique in terms of Buddhist practice is like when if I'm, worrying about my dad, right? And you're thinking about, I heard he went to the doctor today and I don't, or he fell, whatever, right? Right? Ignorance is telling us to believe what we're perceiving, when in fact, all you're perceiving is a mental image. Your dad's not there. You have an emotion, you're interacting with an emotion of fear, or attachment, and you go into this long raves in your head, right? Do anyone else do this? Or am I the only one that does this? And I'm holding a conversation, about why that person ripped me off or why he didn't call me back, why he overcharged, did he overcharge, right? And we're looking at this bill from the plumber and we're going, $425. I think he ripped me off. And then you start getting a little bit pissed off, right? Or like, I gotta call, right? Am I the only one that does this? No. And we think that is reality, right? We think we're dealing with reality. And what we're dealing with is a mental image and a thought and a feeling. And that is the more that comes from meditation, right? Your meditation will enhance that experience for you and that we understand. And one has to study, but not just study. It's actually meditation. It's experience. The whole study thing is only to meditate or to experience, right? Bill, right? Why study?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that again?
The whole purpose of study is to experience. So, is that what I said? So, um, I was talking about how engaging with our mental images, right? And our feelings, our thoughts, we don't perceive we're doing that. I feel like I'm actually talking to that plumber and arguing with them in my head, right? You know, but when you see that it's a total, like a movie in your head, right? It loses its solidity and it dissolves actually. So like I'm so angry with Denise, right? If I get really angry with Denise and I'm convinced and I have this dialogue in my head, if she hadn't, stood me up and not shown up for coffee or, she's, like 40 minutes late. And what if she thinks my time is not precious? She thinks her time is more precious. You see all that? And I really feel like I'm angry at and irritated with Denise. But there's no Denise there, right? Does that make sense? This happens in every instant of our life. Now, a lot of times we're not maybe so emotional, just cruising along, getting our tea, making our dinner, watching a show. So, I understand. So you use extreme examples when the emotions come strong to use as your teacher. But it's also happening when you're just sitting watching TV. We think that what we're watching is really there, or that I'm really, and like Denise when I'm going through that, Denise in my head is really there. I don't know why she does that anyway. She's always late, right? That's what we do, right? And for the meditator, in early stages, all he or she begins to see, it's all this mental image flashing across our mind, feelings flashing across our mind. Okay? Memories flashing, but we don't see that. We say, God, yeah, she was late last time also, right? Okay?
So the mental image we see is the imputation.
Say it again.
The mental image, the story is also
Yeah.
the imputation. That's a
Yeah.
synonym.
Well, it's interesting. What happens due to karmic imprints, mental imprints, is when I notice you're late, right? Because of karma, it raises the imprints of anger.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you were late last time, or when you were late, other people were late, or last lifetime, I had a reaction of anger. So it's a habitual thing.
Until you purify.
Once you see it's just arising, you don't get angry. And then that's how you end karma. Okay? That's how karma gets purified. Okay? Karma gets purified through wisdom. So this is why when we talk about in this class, practicing for everyday life, this is it. You take a little bit of your study from the morning and just take it out with you in the world that day. And apply it. It's great. We have to apply it on our meditation cushion, but that'll take a very long time if we're just on a meditation cushion to attain enlightenment. It's much faster to do it on the meditation cushion and then to do it in the world. It's much faster. It's much faster. It's hard. It's easier just to go into a cave. Actually, that's easier. But it's lot slower. Lot slower. Takes eons. At that approach takes many, many, many eons. Yes, Denise? Mhm.
Could we say karma gets purified when we see it arise as its observer rather than as its experiencer?
Well, it's tricky how we use the words. Experiencer is always there.
Mhm.
So I think maybe what you're saying is like a reactor,
Mhm.
a believer in it, that what I'm seeing is real and true. We're going to have karmic imprints arising for a very, very long time, but we're not going to get hooked by them for a very, very long time, but they'll still arise because there's just almost countless imprints that we need to purify. And depending on one's mode of practice, whether one is, in terms of the Hinayana practice, the fundamentalist practice, Mahayana practice, or Mahayana Vajrayana practice, the pace of purification differs in all three of those. The Hinayana approach being the slowest. And I mean, when I say slow, I'm talking about eons.
Hmm.
In the Mahayana approach, yes, it can also still be eons, but it's not as many. Shakyamuni Buddha, when he first developed a conceptual uh, conceptual view of emptiness, and generated the bodhicitta mind. From that point until he had direct non-conceptual insight into emptiness was one countless eon. Okay. A great eon is something in the trillions of years. Okay. Yeah. Then he had direct insight into emptiness. From there to the 8th level, so it's 10 levels the bodhisattva goes through till he or she attains enlightenment. So from that first level, when he had direct perception into emptiness, non-conceptual, up until the 8th level, took another countless eon, trillions of years.
Slowly,
Then he
slowly.
entered the 8th level. At that point, he attained liberation. That's the process. From the 8th level to surpassing the 10th and attaining full Buddhahood was another countless eon. So we get very impatient. Why can't I do it now? Why can't I? After a week or two. And that doesn't mean we haven't been practicing already for a very long time, right? Most likely, I mean, it's very unlikely that this is the first life we're practicing. But now, in Tantra, so fast forward to the practice of the Vajrayana, and you can attain all those 3 countless eons. It's possible to do in one lifetime. It's very, very rare, but philosophically, theoretically, you can do it one lifetime, or 3 lifetimes, or 7 lifetimes, or 15 lifetimes, which is a matter of, I can't say how many years, but that's very, 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 very quick compared to 3 trillions and trillions of years. Okay. And we can do it this lifetime. Even just I don't mean like that in a small way. Even this lifetime, if we just try to attain full enlightenment, but we attain just activating bodhicitta in our mind, we've entered the path. You can still take a lower rebirth, but you're very, very protected. And you have a conceptual understanding of emptiness and view of emptiness. And then ideally, before one dies, to have the non-conceptual view of emptiness, and you enter the first bodhisattva level, you never get reborn at all in the lower realms. In fact, you have control over your rebirth, and you can direct your rebirth to wherever you want. That first level bodhisattva actually is able to manifest in 100 different places at the exact same time, 100 different bodies. So they can go to many pure lands and receive teachings from different Buddhas. They can go to different lands and study, work, so everything increases. Their realizations just become monumental just in that first level. Gets kind of exciting.
Is that when they were talking about Lama Yeshe seeming so busy, but then learning all this stuff and knowing all this stuff in
Yes.
such little time?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. He always had texts open all over the place. Yeah, and they many things, many feats they have, even just taking the first bodhisattva level like that. They can pass, they can do you mind me saying this stuff or it sounds too magical maybe? Okay. They can you when you have direct insight into emptiness become the first enter the first bodhisattva level, you can actually pass through walls. That's another thing you can do. Just go right. You can you can travel instantly to anywhere, probably. You can manifest in 100 different bodies at the same time in 100 different places. The second level, it gets to 1,000. Third level, 10,000 and on up to like that. Buddha can manifest in countless manifestations. So, Lama Yeshe he had a hard time. So, the other thing I like about this tradition, because I was in the Hindu tradition when I was young, in this tradition, one of the things I like is the humility. You never demonstrate your attainments. And us Westerners are so into like, oh, I did a
Mhm.
1 month retreat and I got, I was able to meditate. I think I actually attained the second level of calm abiding, of the 9 levels. And, you know, it sounds so weird. And I was spiritually born and raised in Nepal because I met the Dharma in Nepal when I moved there as a student when I was 20 years old. And I was in the monastery with Lama Yeshe and Rinpoche for, well, to 1988, so well over 12 years. And we were just pretty much indoctrinated, and that's not how you talk, Uh, Here I was with these very highly attained, not just them, but other lamas there, highly attained. And it's always like His Holiness says, well, I don't know, I'm just a simple monk. It's like, right, you know. So we're the opposite. Not we, maybe just me, but we tend to then boast about our credentials, right? It's very, very funny. Uh, I was asked to give my for something I was doing, I had to submit my resume or something or my history, and one of the monks at the monastery said, "Oh, Karuna, looks like you're talking about you've attained enlightenment." It's like because it said all my degrees and this and that, and that is like, oh, thanks a lot, So that's because they just don't do that, It's hard. It's hard. So the higher the attainment, the more hidden they are. But I will tell you something interesting. More and more hidden, but they can't help it. It seeps out. It seeps out. It's like you just after time you notice something's different. You know, Rinpoche saying, "Oh, I just sleep all day long." I know Rinpoche never slept. He never laid down. But what does he say? If you ask him, do you ever have you ever laid? Oh, I sleep all the time. You know, and Lama Yeshe used to just sort of appear, and he'd walk along, and all of a sudden he just comes out of the. We had this. We had this well, kind of garden at Copan where he was really into gardening, but it had some vegetables, And I remember walking through there and there's like corn, and all of a sudden he came out of the corn stalks. It's like, what? It's like that's not right. And it happened so often. I was remember walking through very late in the evening when everyone's in bed, and I'm walking by the kitchen, and out of the shadows, Lam Yeshe appears. I mean, after a while, you just kind of go, "What's going on here?" It seems like that, but I can't say. Maybe it's my magical thinking. Maybe it's that. But it's kind of fun too.
It
Okay.
seems to be tricky to say that we could exist in 100 different places because it's like what exists in 100 different places, what goes through the wall, right? Like we're so attached to our physical body that we
Yeah.
think that that physical body would go through a wall, or maybe it's a consciousness that goes through the wall, or part of our consciousness that goes
Yeah.
through the wall.
Well, this gets really deeper in the tantra, but uh, it's true. The body changes for that being. It's not this. I mean, that doesn't mean we can see it though, because of our ignorant. It's like they say, there's Buddhas all around us, but we don't see them
Mhm.
but we
Mhm.
can. As soon when we purify our mind more and more, we'll see all those Buddhas. We'll get teachings all the time, and without even big enlightenment thing, just going progressing down the path a certain distance. Um, so that's about all transformation. When you transform the mind, the body transforms too. Yeah, because they're interdependent. You know, an ant has an ant body because it has an ant mind. We have a human body because we have a human mind. The bodhisattva has a bodhisattva body because it has a bodhisattva mind. Okay. And we know that there's celestial being. We don't know, but I believe celestial beings. Their bodies are very ethereal. They're not so concrete. Even spirits who are not in the lower realms. Uh, have more ethereal bodies. They can go through walls and things like that. So it's not a big deal.
So
Okay.
Karuna, I got one more question. Sorry, you guys. If you
I don't know if
guys
it's
like this,
useful.
you're
It's
like
just
I'm
make
over it.
No, it's just I don't know if what I'm talking about tonight is useful or not because I'm just blah blah blah. Okay. Sheila said
Oh,
it.
Definitely,
Susan, I'm
definitely.
not sure.
No,
Okay.
it's good. It's great. It's great to have these conversations because there isn't a platform that you can have these discussions and
It should
have.
be.
There should be,
Yeah.
but it's it's great. I love it.
Okay. Okay. Anyone angry? Am I wasting people's time? Uh, Jay, am I wasting your time down in South Australia?
No, sweetheart, I agree with everybody. You're answering the questions that are burning in our minds.
Okay, good. That's
You know,
very, very important. I'm not talking about myself, but I agree with you. That forum, is really lacking in our community, our Buddhist community. It is lacking. We need Buddhist, not therapy groups, but practice groups, because I don't know who else you ask the questions to, right?
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And particularly how to apply it to everyday life.
That's what yeah. So can
Yeah,
you please tell
I will.
Sheila, make sure you tell Dundrup I'm doing my job, okay?
Also, I want to comment, there may not be many of us here, but on YouTube, you've got about 50 views for each
Oh,
video you
oh,
do.
good. Oh, good.
So the word is getting out more than just our group. So that's,
Oh, I didn't know it was being posted on YouTube. I better be careful what I say then.
we all do.
I'm joking. We all do. Uh, Thank you. And Denise, then you had one more?
So I thought this was pretty thought-provoking. I was in a class last week, and somebody who typically practiced Hinduism
Hmm?
asked, who decides what you get reincarnated as?
Oh, yeah. What did you think?
And I thought this was so great. And I waited with this, like, okay, my Catholic raised mind
Hmm.
wants to say there's this other entity, right?
Right.
That says that.
It's much more comforting.
Well, that it wasn't more comforting to think that for me.
Well, maybe
Because
easier.
when Kusho answered, he giggles and he laughs in his throne and he does this little thing, and then he comes back and he says, you decide.
That's right. And you don't even it's in your hands, but when we say decide, it's on our hands. But deciding
by
means
our
something
by our actions.
totally. That's right.
How our mind is like the ant
Hmm.
will decide us coming back as the ant.
So I'm going to jump from there. I'm going to share a screen. I'm going to this will be fun. Oh, we only have a few minutes. Okay. Okay, just to provoke, right? Because I like uh oh, Sheila, it says host disabled participant screen sharing.
You gotta
Host has to do it.
you gotta make him co-host.
Yeah, she
Oh, sorry.
Sorry about that.
Oh, it's okay. I got it. Let's hope it works this time, like it has the last couple times. Is it there? Wait, don't answer yet. Is it there?
Yes.
Oh, yay. Okay,
Try
don't
to
be
switch a slide.
Huh?
Try to switch a slide. Okay, it did it. Yay.
So I want to talk about, I don't have enough time to do what I wanted, the extent I wanted to do about karma, because I want to clear some things up about karma. So let's see if I can just bear with me, okay? Oh God, this is so interesting, by the way. All this is very, okay. I'm going to go through it quick. I'm not going to allow you to ask questions. I'm going to just hope that you'll get it. So everything in existence, okay? Everything in existence is either a product or a non-product, okay? A product is anything produced, okay? So the clock, the carpet, the bed, computer are products. And so are our feelings, they're produced. So are our emotions, they're produced. Everything that is in the nature of change is a product. And everything is in the nature of change, except a few things. Okay, so there is a non-product as well. Now, non-product doesn't mean non-existent. Okay, products are made up of form and formlessness. Okay, so awareness, like consciousness, mind, those are products because they're subject to cause and effect, right? They're impermanent. Okay, and then there's form. Now, products come into existence through causes and conditions. And the Rice Sealing Sutra, very famous sutra, states, because this exists, that occurs. Okay? Because this has been produced, that has been produced. So let's see, there's interdependence. Conditioned by ignorance, there's formative action. Don't worry about that word at the moment. Okay. Because this exists, that occurs. Referred to as the condition of no movement. Okay, I'm going down to the third line there. Products come into existence independence upon their own specific causes and conditions. Extremely important. Products come into existence independence upon their own specific causes and conditions. A rice seed does not produce a stalk of corn. A rice seed does not produce a Toyota Camry. Okay? Products come into existence in dependence upon their own specific cause and conditions. So God does not make you suffer. Okay? You can't come into existence dependent upon some other causes, unrelated causes and conditions. So coming into existence means there's a dependency, dependently. Okay? Everything exists dependently. Everything. Everything. Emptiness too. Okay? Because this has been produced, that has been produced. Refers to the condition of impermanence. Okay? It counters the belief in a permanent creator or force. So if there was a permanent creator, right? Permanent means not changing, right? Impermanent. How can a permanent thing create something impermanent? It can't. The causes and conditions to be similar to the results, okay, in the same nature. Okay, now, in our minds, again, this is very fast, by the way. I'm not really doing it justice by going so fast, but I thought it might be interesting. Conditioned by ignorance, there's formative action. Okay, because in our mind, we're in the nature of not understanding reality. Another word for not understanding reality is what's used in Buddhist psychology and philosophy. It's called ignorance. We're ignorant of reality. We're ignorant of the way things truly exist. Okay, so this is referred to as a condition of potential. So when we're in this class and we're talking, okay, our ignorance is functioning each instant. And in that instant, every perception I have with my eyes, my ears, my thoughts, my brain, with my taste, my body. Okay, you have five senses, right? The eyes, the ears, the nose, sight, hearing, smell, taste, and tactile. Uh, so all of those perceptions are happening all the time, instantly. I mean, not each sense is happening all the time, by the way, but there's constant experience. If we're experiencing, it means we're perceiving. If we're perceiving through the five senses or with the mind itself, like when we're dreaming. None of the senses are there. When we're dreaming, it's the mind perceiving aspects of the mind. Okay? But all of those, you see, all of that is things happening. It's impermanent and things are happening. So what happens is the psychology is that though all of those things leave an imprint on the consciousness. Okay? All of them leave imprints on the consciousness. Okay? I mean, there can be some things that happen that don't leave imprints on the consciousness, but anything that's experienced by the experiencer, which is the mind, which is me, we could say, but it's technically not me, but the mind itself experiencing something, it leaves an imprint on the conscious. That's called formative action. That imprint is a seed or potential. So it has the potential to do something later. Understand? Okay. Okay. This is what keeps us in cyclic existence because we're constantly making them. And that means they're going to ripen. The understanding of reality will never produce such thoughts and actions. So when we perceiving the nature of reality, the emptiness of inherent existence, this process stops because there's no ignorance. And that ignorance, why ignorance? Because it sees things as inherently, truly existent, and that's wrong. And then we react to that. All of that is reinforcing ignorance because those imprints are laid upon the consciousness. Okay. Now, actions create imprints. Mental energy. Now, I think I don't want to say it's technically correct, but I think it's helpful to think that karma is just mental energy. Okay. Actions create imprints. All the imprints have four qualities: certainty, magnification, one will never experience a result not created by oneself, and imprints are never, ever lost. So when I say, Denise makes me really angry, that's completely wrong view. I have anger coming up in my mind, it must be from an imprint in my mind. Okay? No one can put an imprint in you. You can't trade imprints. And the hardest thing for me I'm retired now for the most part, as a psychologist, was parents who had really, it could be any way you look at it, but I'm thinking of one in the case of parents having very, very troubled children. And us parents always blame ourselves, don't we? But it's really hard to know that the imprint of what the child is going through internally, right? That was created by that child because it's an imprint that they're experiencing in their own consciousness. You can't transfer imprints to another person. That's why it's called samsara. That's why God and no one else can liberate us. Okay, so what's our time like? Okay, I'll take just a few more minutes. I'm talking really fast, I know. So the first one, the certainty of cause and effect, is all happiness and pleasure arises from virtuous causes. If you want to be happy, plant virtuous seeds. If you want rice, plant rice. Okay. If you want saffron, plant saffron. Okay. If you want poison oak, plant poison oak. If you want to be happy, and we do, then it's a matter. So when we're happy, that is right? Those are imprints arising. That's an experience. But we don't think that experience is coming from imprints that I planted. We think I'm happy because, um, you know, my wife made me a really nice dinner that I didn't know she was going to make. So we think the cause is, I should give her credit, by the way, don't misunderstand. We have conventional reality. But the actual cause, see, we always say, well, the reason I'm not happy is because that guy dented the door in my car. I'm really upset about that. We never think, or I don't ever think that's actually due to a karmic imprint. My feeling of anger or upsetness is planted in my consciousness somehow. Probably when I was buying the car and had this great sense of attachment to how, beautiful it was, and it's mine, and the paint job is a very special paint job, right? All that's leaving imprints. Right now we're leaving imprints. Okay. So yeah, imprints are very subtle too. Okay, they're not just gross. So the way to be happy at some point it's not instant, by the way. That's another thing about karma. There is no, well, I shouldn't say there's no instant karma, but for the most part, it's not instant karma. You don't give someone, you don't practice some sort of generous action in the hope that you're going to get rich tomorrow, because the cause of becoming wealthy is generosity. But it doesn't mean that it happens instantly. It doesn't happen instantly. All painful or unpleasant feelings arise from non-virtuous imprints. Okay? And someday we can talk about what is virtuous and what is not virtuous. Nothing except permanent phenomena arises without a cause. There are not many permanent phenomena which are non-products. Space is one of them. Space, not outer space, space. Okay, the space between the atoms, the space between, me and this computer. Now, there's a lot of things in that space too. There's molecules, there's atoms, there's a lot of forms, but there's also some space. So if there's no space, then the molecules couldn't move around, could they? Just simple physics. That space is permanent. It does not change moment to moment. Then karma, these imprints. When I say karma, remember, imprints. Okay, imprints. Okay, so imprints increase. Okay, karma, cause and effect, causes increase greatly. So it's not that they're just static. Okay, they increase. And one way of looking at it is that is like, let's say, this is a true story, but I'll leave it. I won't go into the details right now. But a true story is that, so someone goes and sees some, well, it's happening. They were on their way to Nepal, and they stopped off in Thailand, and they hooked up with some friends, and all of a sudden, and decided, well, I'm going to go day after tomorrow, and they said, well, let's get high, and so they actually ended up smoking heroin. That person became a heroin addict. So he had the imprint to smoke it, but what became, and his life was just destroyed. He died young of hepatitis C and that sort of thing. So that's an example of karma can increase as well. That's just a small example. Small virtue can bring great happiness, and small non-virtue can bring great unhappiness. Okay. An acorn produces an oak tree. Something so small produces something so great. I know I'm running out of time. Then I'm going into these four qualities of karma. If an action is not performed, its results will not be met. Okay? If you haven't created the cause, no way you can experience the result. Sometimes I think about these cases of people in plane crashes. Everyone's killed, but them. I remember the story. I don't know if you know, but the story of a young girl who I think a plane exploded in the sky, and she fell all the way to Earth and wasn't killed. If she doesn't have the cause, she can't experience the result. Okay? You can't experience the result created by another person. Your children's experiences were not created by you. But by the way, don't forget that we can create conditions, though, of course, good conditions and bad conditions. And for example, I may have the condition to be an alcoholic, but if I never, never go into, I mean, I may have those causes, right? But if I'm kept out of bars and away from alcohol, then I don't want to experience, most likely I won't experience those results. Okay, so you can't just, yeah. Bodhisattvas, Buddhas, or God cannot place you in heaven or a pure land. Okay, that's cause and effect. Only you can place yourself there. And now, once the results start to mature, and this is very scary for, well, not just mental health workers, but also anybody. But once they start to mature, it's like popcorn. You can't put them back in the kernel. Okay, so it's really very, very, very scary that we don't, the practice of the Buddhist practice is don't let them mature. And there's many, many, many ways to avoid that, and then purify them before they will ripen. And actions done so sorry, they never get lost from your consciousness. They move with you from life to life. But you can purify. And that's what enlightenment is. All those seeds are purified, even the subtle ones. Okay. Okay. 7:30. See you later. Any quick question? I know that's very, very, very fast. That's like speed dating, Like, yes, William.
Very quick. You had a slide there and you mentioned that imprints are there forever.
Yeah, until they're purified,
Okay, that
or
was
until
my
or until they're experienced.
is
Like
it-
what you and I are doing right now is due to cause and effect too, right? And we're experiencing each other. Those imprints are now seized. The reason
so-
that doesn't go away is because I'm seeing you as inherently existent. You see me as inherently existent, probably. And then, if I have a strong reaction, negative, then it's a stronger imprint for the future. Or if you have the imprint, so let's say I'm practicing with teaching with bodhicitta, I make every instant is a positive imprint, but a very highly positive. There are many kinds of positive, right? They're not all equal. They're not all equal. Some lead to a positive imprint can lead to a soft breeze when you're hot. Some imprints can lead to bliss. Some imprints lead to a nice dinner with your friends, things like that, right?
Vajrasattva meditation then can reduce the bad karmic seeds or the magnitude of them.
That's their whole purpose.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, yeah. Denise, is this any? Yeah, so that's the whole purpose. Yeah, now all those practices, that better, Denise? She says it might be the light behind me. Anyway, so Denise, that's still blurry? No. Oh, it was maybe your screen was blurry. Anyway, so Bill, that's the whole
Sorry,
purpose.
don't worry about it.
Yeah, you reminded me of something that's might be quite helpful, is all the practices come down to just two things: purifying or creating positive potential. And in many times they're very related. But when I like practicing generosity, it can be purification, but generally practicing generosity is planting positive imprints, isn't it? Walking around with the bodhicitta attitude is creating billions and billions of positive imprints, no matter what I'm seeing out there, right? Even what I'm doing. But if I practice bodhicitta and then do vajrasattva, then I'm creating incredible merit or positive potential and purifying those karmic imprints. And one last thing on purifying. Ultimately, we have to have a view of emptiness to purify. I think the purification practices we do purify. They do purify. But for the Bodhisattva, why she is in the path of awakening is because she's doing everything with a view of emptiness. Okay.
Oh, I want to ask a question.
Okay.
I would like to formally ask you if you would host a Buddhist practice group in the future that's very near where we pick subjects like this, and that's our subject for a certain amount of time, and that you be our facilitator for that, please.
Well, probably the best way to do that is through one of the centers. Ask them, request to them that I do it. Land of Medicine Buddha or Thupten Norberling or somewhere. That's how I prefer to do it. So I'm open. I'm open.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so thank you very, very much. And just let's in order to plant the potential positive potential. So, just talking tonight does probably leave positive imprints on our consciousness. They might only manifest unless we dedicate with more intensity. They might only manifest as maybe next life we become we are able to get straight A's in school or something like that, or we have a nice intelligent mind. That's all good. If we use all of this with the intention with that when these ripen, the sole purpose is that they ripen. They're the causes, direct causes of a fully awakened mind, and that all that we listen to about emptiness and karma will have that we experience those ideas directly. So it's an experiential learning, and then that never goes away. That's what's called a realization, for the benefit of all the living beings, includes the ants, the mosquitoes, the plankton, the humans, the tiny number of 8 billion humans. Okay, thank you very, very much. Good night. See you next week. It's our last class, I think. Okay. Thank you. I really appreciate your questions and being so attentive. I really appreciate it. Thank you.